You know, it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while, I just get the darndest comments, let me tell ya. Like Mr. Eric Friel here, who called me on my bullshit about my last video not being related to Mantle of Battle Harmony. Or this one here, by someone whose name I literally can't pronounce. I came here for Mantle of Battle Harmony. I got clickbaited. Wise words spoken by what I generally assume to be a wiser alleged male. See, I actually hate Mantle of Battle Harmony at this point because I've just talked about it so much, so I'd be lying if I said that these comments got me going full mast. If anything, it was half-mast, either that or just a placid chub. As a matter of fact, it made me want to chug a bottle of bleach, and I cannot be more proud of these two. All it took was 2 joke comments to grind my will down to a fine powder and make me cave. So congratulations, Mr. Eric Friel, and I don't know how to say your name. This one's for both of you. I am still haunted by this exotic to this day. I filmed and produced 4 of these videos in a week. That is an insurmountable task. To give a little context, it takes me about 3 days to slam one of these out, and that's being conservative with the whole editing and overall writing. Needless to say, I am very tired of Mantle of Battle Harmony, but duty calls, unfortunately, and that means we're gonna take another look at it. We're gonna do it right now because Daddy J leaves no stone unturned, and because I hate myself. Let's get aspects and fragments out of the way quick. We're working with Bleak Watcher now that it's done breaking the game, and Ice Flare Bolts. Bleak Watcher modifies your grenade into a turret, much like an Arc Soul. It deals stasis damage and will freeze targets after dealing enough of said damage. Ice Flare Bolts triggers on the elimination of a frozen target. Their body will create freeze trails that'll track other targets near them, creating an annoyingly large amount of ice crystals on screen at one time. I hate it already. For fragments, we're starting with the Whisper of Torment. This converts any and all forms of damage taken from targets into grenade energy. It'll help compensate for a lower discipline stat, in the event that your stat lines are total trash, kinda like mine. Next up is Whisper of Bonds, which returns extra super energy anytime you kill something that's been frozen. With those aspects, it's gonna happen often, but I still don't recommend pushing intellect further than 50. We'll talk more about that later, I promise. For now, this'll cost you a single stat tier of both discipline and intellect. In slot 3, we've got Whisper of Hedrons. This buffs weapon damage for 10 seconds after freezing a target. It's a skill tree buff, so by game logic, it should stack on mod buffs and gun buffs too. Either that or I'm just imagining things, which is entirely possible. You'll notice that I've got an open fragment slot. That's because I couldn't find anything that actually benefited the synergy of the build in question, so I just left it blank. Whisper of Impetus is a decent pick, but anything that goes here will likely end up being more passive than anything else. Whisper of Rending is also really good, but we've already got a damage perk, and I've got conflicting reports on whether or not Rending and Hedrons can stack. If you're unsure, Whisper of Fractures is always a strong fragment to go with. Now we get to take a 379th look at my favorite exotic of all time, Mantle of Battle Harmony. For those of you who don't know, kills with weapons that match your subclass element trigger an ability called Energy Siphon. It lasts for 2 seconds and it cannot be stacked, but there is no internal cooldown. Once you're charged, Absorption Cells triggers on every matching elemental kill, and it gives a damage buff to any weapons that match your subclass element. I mentioned earlier not to push intellect any further than 50, and that's because Energy Siphon essentially does that on its own. It's an extreme increase to charge speed for a brief period of time, and intellect tiers any higher than 50 are just a waste of points that could be allocated elsewhere for better performance in general. It is extremely handy, not to be overlooked. Now we get to look at the weapon in question. Transition time. Cryosthesia 77k is the thing that links all of this together, and while it is a decent gun, though I do hate the variable trigger, this is mostly because of liquid cooling. Kills with this weapon enable a charged shot for a short duration that will instantly freeze any targets that are hit by it at the cost of what remains in the magazine. The catalyst that I'll never get because I'm not risking another ulcer by using a sidearm in the Crucible, let alone Cryosthesia, enables an ability called Cold Efficiency, and it refills the entire magazine every time a target is shattered. It's actually really handy, and it helps the chain damage continue, or at least I think. Like I said, I'll never actually get it because sidearm's struggling through Crucible matches for the sake of a gimmick gun that I'll likely never use for anything other than this? All because it sits in a kinetic slot? That's just not worth having an aneurysm over. I can already spam all of my ice abilities because according to Bungie, stasis is in a great spot. Thanks, Luke. Your tyrannical fucking legacy lives on in this game forever. I hope you're happy. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about mods before I have a complete and total stasis-induced meltdown. Elemental Charge, Elemental Armaments, Energy Converter, Supercharged, and Stacks on Stacks. All of those play into Energy Converter, which is a great mod. Let me tell you how it works. Energy Converter turns charges of light into super energy. The more charges you have, the more energy you'll get back when you throw a grenade. It's a little weird though. It'll only restore up to 50% of your maximum charge based on how charged you currently are. So if you're at 49% and you throw a grenade, it'll eat all of your charges and you're only going to get 1% of a charge in return. Conversely, if you throw a grenade immediately after your cast ends, it'll consume all of your charges and you'll get a lump sum of super energy in return. Also, before anyone even bothers to comment, because I know it's coming, I curved Glacial Inheritance something fierce because it and another mod called Breach and Clear are both class item mods. Breach and Clear is 1,000 times better than Glacial could ever dream of being, and I'm rotating between Salvager Salvo and Truth Teller right now, so yeah, that's definitely the better mod pick. You'll likely have to clean out your class item to make room for it because it's 9 energy, but man oh man. Grenade launcher damage buff?
Oh yes, Daddy!
The only reason I didn't bother to include it in the template is because there are still a lot of people who don't have it just yet, myself included, but boy am I so close I can literally taste the gunpowder. Now, in terms of base functionality, we've all been doing the Shadebinder Warlock thing since Beyond Light launched. All of us already kinda know how these aspects and fragments work together. This is a freeze chain, with the centerpiece being Cryosthesia. Everything you do should be freezing something. There should never be a time when you aren't constantly dealing stasis damage, though you do want to prioritize the usage of the stasis sidearm itself. That'll increase your overall charge time. Now, I mentioned Breach and Clear earlier because it's fantastic for any kind of boss damage, be it a champion or a legend sector boss. Any big boy yellow bar will have no choice but to bend to your will. That being that they die in horrible and unspeakable ways involving spike grenades. Truth Teller is definitely the wisest choice here, mostly because Cryosthesia will freeze and a Truth Teller with autoload/demo will always be ready and willing for the task at hand. This is also going to drastically decrease the amount of time that your grenade is on cooldown, which is key to the supercharged chain. The focus remains on Cryosthesia, but having a way to bolster that grenade charge is key. The mods that are set in place here is what allows it to keep up its pace. Elemental Armaments gives elemental weapons an escalating chance to spawn an elemental well. Elemental Charge allows you to grab that well, with stacks on stacks doubling its value, meaning that instead of getting just the 2 charges of light because you grabbed a well that matched your class elements, now you'll get 4, which is your maximum charge count thanks to Supercharged. The goal is to chuck that grenade as soon as that cast is over. It doesn't matter where it goes. Honestly, it just needs to get chucked so you can get that super energy, though I would recommend solid placement and planning in said grenade toss. Wildly flailing your throwing arm in any given direction with an explosive device of any kind in your hand is just kinda dumb. 4 charges max will fill anywhere from 20 to 25% of your super almost immediately, which really is just further supplementing Mantle of Battle Harmony even more. As for fragments, you can get away with lower discipline tiers because of Whisper of Torment. As you're constantly taking damage, it's constantly charging your grenade. Frozen targets will provide a damage buff, and the elimination of those targets will offer double the super energy they normally would because of Whisper of Bonds. This entire thing is just one giant super cooled circle that I've grown to hate already after playing with it because Luke Smith can eat sand. If you can just get past the idea that stasis is a broken and unbalanced mechanic for half of the player base that are solely dedicated to PvP and everything that I hate more than I hate myself, you'll see that it's actually a fun thing to play around with, even if it does need nerfs to any degree, be it small or large on a universal scale. But I mean, hey, at least we finally have another Mantle of Battle Harmony build, right? And it's for a new element too. I suppose that's what's important. It's not like YouTube's algorithm cares about my sanity, or the fact that I'm just over this exotic in general. This was the 5th in that series, and unfortunately, I've still got 2 more to go. Regardless, there will be another Build Talks episode in the coming days. Keep your eyes open for that. Or don't. I really don't care either way. You guys know the drill. Me, in my cell, goodbye.